Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. We continue the conversation on the response to the National Budget 2023-2024. This morning, joining me on set is the President of AMCHAM Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Stuart Franco. Good morning to you, sir.
Morning, sir.
How are you doing this morning?
So far, so good. Thank you very much to having me.
Of course.
And to all the viewers.
Now, I noticed that you guys put out a response quick last night to the budget. So, I mean, let's just get a summary of how AMCHAM feels about the budget.
So, basically, the response last night is really a placeholder more than anything else, right? The budget was long, a lot of details, a lot of pieces and elements to put together and understand. And yeah, we see the budget as one that attempted to go down the road of the people, one with many small components that when all added together, hopefully will have an impact of trying to boost confidence and trying to boost activity in the economy. No massive changes, only 2 or 3 little elements, which I'm sure we'll go through. And overall, I think we are looking forward really and truly to the actual inaction taking place, it being done, right? So that's one of our messages out of it, you know. We're glad to see it. We're glad to see the emphasis being placed, in particular on stuff like the IT, the economy, etc. But we really want to see the action take place. We want to see it be put in place, and we want to assist.
Right. Now, before we get into what was presented yesterday, I want to just go back a little bit in terms of what would have been presented last year. And you mentioned things being put in place. Have you seen some of the things that were presented in the last budget being put in place for the last fiscal year?
So some of them have been, some of them have not. Not as many have as we would like to see. There are multiple reasons why and multiple factors that lead to that. But I do think over the last year, a lot of things have been happening in the background that brings it closer to fruition.
Right.
And I do believe that in this year, we will see more of it coming into play. All
right, nice. So let's get into some of the things that were presented yesterday. One of them being the minimum wage. I mean, we had a little chat about it just now. We saw what the minister said about the minimum wage. How does AMCHAM feel about the minimum wage increase?
So I think we support it. Our stance is it needed to happen. That level of the community definitely needs the uplift to help combat the inflation and the prices out there. It's very difficult to make ends meet. So this is a step in a good direction to assist.
What does it mean for business owners?
Right. So you mentioned it just now in the earlier segment, right? Yes, there is a trickle-on effect because the reality is you're not only going to be able to increase just that minimum wage employee, right? The employee that's just above or anybody who's in between that 1750 and 2050 also needs to be increased. And then there's a comparison of, well, if I was on, let's say, 20, how do I, or 21, how do I not get an increase, right? So you are going to see an increase across the board, basically. So the ask really and truly is, well, what steps are going to be taken or how are we going to assist the business community to sustain this increase?
Yeah, because I'm wondering if it is you're saying that, from what you said there, right, if I increase the minimum wage, that means I have to increase everybody else who was above the minimum wage beforehand. Then does that now mean I'm going to increase the price to customers?
So it does in certain circumstances lead to that, yes, because the bottom line is your sell price is based on a margin off of your cost.
Right.
If your cost is going up, then your sell price is going to go up. Yes, sir. So it's a chicken and egg. What comes first and what has a better impact? Is it the increase in their disposable income or the prices that they're going to face due to those increases?
Yeah, so then it doesn't really help the inflation situation very much, does it?
I think it does, but not wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
There will be some sort of middle ground, but it's still a step in the right direction, if you understand.
What steps do you think the government should have taken or can take still to be able to mitigate some of those increases that may come?
So you make me smile, right? And you open up the floor for me. I think a massive impact right now on small to medium business in this country is the availability of Forex, right? So Forex is the number one. Majority of business owners, majority of senior executive, CFOs, CEOs, they are spending time trying to figure out where am I getting Forex from. When I do get Forex, there's then decisions to be made of, well, what lines do I bring? What lines do I sell? And it's not a matter anymore of not being able to sell. I have the opportunities to sell, but I have to choose how best to utilize my Forex.
Yeah.
I think in a perfect world, we shouldn't be in that position. We shouldn't be wondering, well, what do I sell and not sell because I need to prioritize my Forex spend.
Right, but I mean, isn't there also the challenge of us spending too much Forex so that we don't have enough in the local economy circulating and going back into the economy?
So again, it depends on what that spend is, right? If that spend is for raw material, then no.
Okay.
If that spend is for sale of finished product, then no. if that spend is for home, for self, or for material items for me because I would like to have them, then I get where you're going. But the reality is, if I am in that bracket and I have the ability to purchase, then I should be able to access what I need, which is where the credit cards come in, right?
Right.
Because I'm utilizing credit cards to access.
Right. And in terms of businesses who would have been also, I mean, there's also an incentive for businesses to be able to get more into exporting, which should lead to us receiving more Forex in general. How do you feel about that?
It's great. It's great, and those steps will help.
All right, I want to break down one of these steps because I think it's the way it's phrased in the budget and the way that it was read out. It can be a little bit confusing to people who may not be in business or who may not understand exactly what it is. What is the business levy?
Okay, so business levy is a tax paid on your revenue. It's 0.6% of your revenue, of your top line.
Right.
All right, so basically what's being said is you're going to be allowed to separate your revenue from domestic and export.
Right.
Your export revenue will be spared of that 0.6% levy.
Okay.
Okay, so that 0.6% levy will be retained in your business.
Right.
And will go straight to your bottom line.
So do you think that would make people want to export more?
Yes, because if I export more, I get to save more from a tax break perspective.
Yeah.
I think he mentioned, and I don't want to quote and be wrong, but I think he mentioned the estimated impact of same is something like $20 million.
Yes. That's how much the government is scheduled to lose in terms of that tax.
Exactly,
Yeah.
or forego in
rather,
tax
yes.
revenue
Yes.
from a business level perspective
Right.
for exports. And I think the intention is really to try and get that to grow. You're right, to try
Yeah.
and foster and push people into exporting. And again, it's all designed, and there are multiple little steps you will see, designed to try and get businesses to start earning more Forex.
And you think that that's a good step then?
Yes, it's a small step.
A small one, but a good one.
Many small steps make a big step,
Definitely.
right? So yes, I think it's one of the steps towards improvement.
I think one of the so do you think though that same push to get people to export more, how would that impact on the manufacturing for local use?
So I to be honest, I don't think it would impact. If anything, it should help, right?
Okay.
Because if I'm improving the amount that I am manufacturing from an economies of scale perspective, I ought to be able to produce for less, right? The more I produce is the more I could scale. The more I could scale is the more I should be able to reduce my cost per unit, right? What happens after that when I export? Where does the Forex go? Does it stay here? Does it stay outside? Does it get put back into the system? Those are all questions that are really, really difficult to answer, and I'm not too sure how those are measured today.
Okay, well, I think we definitely have to pay attention to see exactly how some of the details will be unfolding.
Correct.
In terms of the back pay that's been promised to public servants, does AMCHAM have any response to that?
So I think the negotiations have been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
This back pay is from many years ago. I think it is a good thing that it's happening. It's a good thing that those negotiations have completed, and it hasn't completed with everybody either. It is completed with a significant portion, or a few, whatever word we're going to use, and that has equated to 1 billion, and has also equated to an additional 360 million in expenditure for the government every year going forward. I think the hope out of it is that billion, which is going to be paid in a lump sum representing multiple years of back pay, is going to help boost spend and boost activity in the economy, which should have a trickle-on effect to the small to medium business, all the retailers, shops, etc., where this money hopefully will be spent.
Yeah, and do you think it's a good move to not tax it?
Yeah, because if it's not taxed, then it goes straight into their pocket. It has a better impact on them as how much they consume. And then hopefully, again, as I said, it'll have that trickle-on effect to how much they're able to spend, how much of it becomes disposable.
And in terms of all right, as a business owner, as business owners, I mean, generally, what sort of incentives do you guys want to be able to add to the budget? What details do you want to see play out?
Okay, so I like the question, what details? I do think that there was a lot to unpack in the budget, all right? So it was long. There's a lot of small pieces that make up a massive, right? And again, I'm going to say a lot of it is geared towards trying to improve, trying to boost confidence. That's the word I'm going to use. I think there's a lack of confidence that exists, and all of these steps are to try to build that confidence, to try to get us to a better place in trusting and believing in the economy. What I would say is, for me, in my position, not just as AMCHAM, but as a CEO of Trinidad Systems Limited and a small retail owner, for me, it's Forex. And I'm going to keep harping on that. I know the minister did touch on it. I know he did talk about going into learning more about the details of the cause and effects. I know he spoke about Forex repatriation. I know he spoke about XM Bank. He spoke about many things. However, there was not a lot of detail on it. And the devil is in the detail, right? So I think for sure we need to see what are these steps, what are these measures. And our ask as AMCHAM, because I'm here to represent AMCHAM, is we want to work together. We want to collaborate. We want to spend time. We want to share ideas, concepts, and assist the government wherever possible in trying to develop a good, sustainable plan to deal with the Forex issues in Trinidad.
Has that been happening in the past?
I would say I think I'm seeing it more of late than prior. Is it happening as much as it should as yet? I'm going to say no, not as yet. Do I have hopes? Do I see a momentum towards same? Yes, I do. I do think that steps are being taken towards it. I'm heartened by that, and I really hope that it continues, and I hope that we are able to play a more instrumental role in seeing it through and making it happen.
Yeah.
It will have a significant impact.
Definitely. You mentioned Forex, and I know that you're passionate about the Forex, but you also mentioned the confidence in ourselves. And, I was chatting with Mr. Khan earlier, who represents the agricultural sector, or part of the agricultural sector. And one of the challenges that he's facing is that, he wants to see less spending on Forex and more investment in local, so that we can use some things from here to replace some of the things that we might be bringing in. How do you feel about that?
So it's a fact. It's a fact. The reality is that's across the board. If more money is spent on locally manufactured products or locally grown produce, then we use less Forex. Okay, so I do think the minister and the government and everybody is fully aware of that. All right, so again, it's taking steps towards finding that balance, because on the flip side, someone will say, well, I want to have an open market. I want to have the ability to have different products to choose from. Competitiveness is great. It breeds honesty and it breeds good pricing. So there are many different facets and sides to it. But the reality is nobody could fute. If more local manufactured items were purchased and if more locally grown produce was purchased, the need for Forex will come down. And if the demand for Forex comes down, then the situation is improved. Now, Forex is needed to bring in raw material for manufacturing. So you still need it, right?
Yeah.
And if we're going to grow export, then you need more Forex to grow export. So it's really a complicated, multifaceted issue that you cannot look at in isolation. There's no one piece that you could look at and say, let's do this. It's not going to work. All right? All of them have to work together and come together in harmony for it to really be resolved.
And it's interesting, and I'm happy that you said that, because I think plenty of people don't really understand how much levels and how complicated it can get when you're dealing with, the business of a country. Right, because they have so many people, and the minister mentioned it yesterday, and everybody wants to hear their sector being represented to the fullest. And of course, he can't go into the detail about everything. So over the next few weeks, you'll be hearing some of the details that's going to be presented from the various ministers. One of the things that he did mention was increasing or removing tax from the public and private schools' corporate sponsorship. Does that affect the members of AMCHAM in any way, form, or fashion?
To be honest, if anything, it's an incentive to get more involved. Again, there to AMCHAM and there to TSL Foundation, we're involved in assisting the Russell Latapi Secondary School right now. And I can tell you, when you go, it fills your heart, bro. It really does. When you go and you spend time and you learn more as to what they're going through and what they're facing. And I think as a community, we all need to get more involved. We all need to find a way to play a more instrumental role in uplifting that sector. And I genuinely feel his mission there is, again, it might sound weird, but to me, is to start fighting crime from that early step. Because if you get involved then and you improve the number of people that remain in the system, you reduce the impact, okay? And I'll give you an example. AMCHAM was involved in the Russell Latapi Secondary School, as I mentioned. They got involved in a mentorship program. They adopted and took control, spent time, motivated, mentored, just spent a lot of time invested in that Form 1 group 5 years ago. The numbers, and again, I don't want to say anything wrong, so I'm going to be careful. Let's say traditionally 30% made it from Form 1 to Form 5 and actually sat the exams.
Right.
With AMCHAM's involvement, the last graduating class, which AMCHAM spent time with for the last 5 years, that was up over 75%. You're seeing a doubling of the participation level through the 5-year period.
Yeah.
That is bound to have a trickle-on effect later on.
Yeah.
It's bound to have a positive impact. And that's what we would like to see, more of that. So yes, I do think it's going to have a positive impact. Is it short-term? Definitely not. But it will have a good long-term impact.
A good long-term impact. And I think that's a big part of what we need to be able to make sure that we go forward and we go forward positively. Does AMCHAM have plans of continuing such projects long-term?
So yeah, and AMCHAM is also reaching out to membership and anybody out there who's listening that would be willing to participate or get involved in these programs. And I'm pretty sure AMCHAM is not the only one with programs like this, right? There are a dime a dozen out there. There are many people trying to give back and trying to assist. Reach out, get involved, jump in. And you'll be surprised it has a positive impact from an employee.
I firmly agree with that. I think more money should be spent on that and less money on national security. But that's a whole other conversation. Tell me, before we go, any closing words that you want to let the nation know?
Yeah, I would just say, I think patience is key. Patience is critical. I think we need to look at it for the multiple different steps. And we need to find a way to invest time and effort into building back confidence ourselves. You know, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. And in many different facets, many different areas, including us as a business sector, that need to work on it to make it right.
Yeah. I love that. I love that because oftentimes you just depend on the government and hope that the government fixes it without realizing that we have a role to play in it as well.
So thank you. Stones in a glass house, right?
Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Mr. Franco, and for sharing your thoughts. And we look forward to, as we get more details, hopefully we can check in with you again to see how you feel about the details, the devil in the details.
Devil in the details. God bless and thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, no problem. Enjoy the rest of your day. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the president of AMCHAM Trinidad and Tobago, Stuart Franco, just sharing his thoughts on the budget presented yesterday. Of course, we still wait on the details to see exactly what's going to be playing out, but everybody's giving their 2 cents. We'll take a quick break and we come back with some more. Stay tuned. You have a chance to do yours in a bit as well.